elected to serve. And by that I mean we put the power back in the hands of the hardworking taxpayers and not in the hands of a small group of special interests. You see, in our state for years, things like our school districts had to buy their health insurance in most places from just one company because that's the way the old contract was. We changed that, we reformed that, and now our schools are saving tens of millions of dollars, money that can go directly in the classroom. We got rid of seniority and tenure so we can staff in our schools based on merit, not just on tenure. We can pay based on performance. In the end, that means we can put the best and the brightest in our classrooms, and we can keep them there. As one superintendent said to me recently, he said, the best thing about what you did, Governor, was I get to go back to my office and I get to spend my time working on curriculum instead of worrying about grievances. And I said, that's what it's all about, making sure our schools and our government work better for the people. And so that's what we've been up to. The irony is, after doing all that, any other time, any other place across America, that'd be a pretty compelling argument a couple of years for re-election. Make the government work better for the people you serve, fix your finance problems without raising taxes, without massive layoffs, and do so in a way that helps the economy grow and put more people to work in the private sector. But instead, because I took on the third rail, I took on some of the most powerful special interests in Washington to do this. They are literally spending tens of millions of dollars to try and take me out on June the 5th. We've got tremendous support from across the country. We're so pleased to have folks on this call from the Faith and Freedom Coalition, and we just so much appreciate your interest in what's going on. In the end, I believe we will prevail because I believe we have to. Because I believe when we prevail on 4 more weeks from this Tuesday, on June 5th, I believe what will happen, not just in my state house, but in state houses all across America, and in particular in the halls of Congress, we'll send a powerful message that voters do want people to stand up and courageous. They do want people to make tough decisions. They do want folks who think more about our kids and our grandkids than they do about our own political futures. And when we do that, I believe it'll affirm that there'll be voters and supporters there willing to lift those folks up. And so I just appreciate everybody's interest here, and if you guys would like, I'd love to spend a few minutes taking some calls from folks if you got them.
Yeah, Governor, we're gonna take some questions from some of the callers. I just want to underscore to both you and to all the folks that are on the call all over the country that Faith and Freedom Coalition is going to be involved in the recall effort. We're going to be mailing, phoning, distributing voter guides. We'll make in excess of 400,000 voter contacts to fiscal and social conservatives throughout Wisconsin to make sure they go to the polls. We'll be doing that not only in your race, but in the key state Senate races that are on, just as we did in the early state Senate races. And I guess my question to you is, given what you just laid out, and given the very minimal additional contributions that you asked public employees to make to, for example, their health care and pension programs, why do you think that you're seeing such an asymmetrical reaction? I mean, given the fiscal situation you inherited and the very minimal investments you asked them to make, why do you think you're being subjected to what amounts to an unprecedented recall effort in the state of Wisconsin?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, it's interesting. I've got a younger brother, a couple years younger than me, and he works as a banquet manager at a hotel. His wife sells appliances at a department store. They got 2 beautiful girls, my nieces. And he said to me all throughout this past year, he said, Scott, I have to pay more than $800 a month for my health insurance premiums and the little bit I can set aside my 401k because you're asking for a fraction of that. I don't get why people are so upset. And I said the real reason for this goes to the heart of your question is it's the national big government union bosses, the national special interests who are upset about this because most workers who look at this, because this applies to me and Tonette and my boys as well. It costs us almost $11,000 a year more because we pay for more of our pension than even our state employees do. So we're we see a difference. We had to make some changes in our household as well, but I thought it was worth it to balance the budget, to do it without raising taxes, in particular to do it without laying off massive numbers of state and local government employees. But the reason why they're so vested in taking me out is because along the way I also gave the nearly 300,000, the vast majority of our good, decent, hardworking public servants in our state, the freedom to choose. And by that I mean the freedom to choose whether they want to be in a public employee union or not. And that means if you're a teacher in a place like Milwaukee who's paying $1,400 for your state and local union dues, and now you opt to keep that for your maybe your pension contribution or your health insurance premium, or heck, maybe you set some of that money aside to help pay for your kids' college education someday. In each of those cases, I think the worry they have out of Washington is those good, decent, hardworking public employees may choose to keep their own money, and who would blame them? And the people in Washington don't like that, because that's how they get things done. That's how they fund their political efforts and everything else, by automatically forcing those dues out of the paycheck. We stop that. That's what has them so upset, and that's why I got a target squarely in my head. But I think in the end, we're going to prove that you can get things done here in Wisconsin. I think that it all boils down to turnout. That's why the most powerful thing on our side is the truth. And the more we get that truth out, and certainly folks on this call can help us out with that, the more we get the truth out, the more likely we are to prevail on June the 5th. And it's important for me. It's important for Rebecca Clayfish, our Lieutenant Governor, who has a separate recall election. It's important for those 4 state senators you mentioned, because in every instance, it'll be good not just for Wisconsin, but for America.
I'm sorry, I pushed the wrong button here. This is Tony Nazarick with you again.
Hey, Tony.
Phenomenal response.
See, I thought maybe the special interest had logged their way into our call here, right?
Yeah. I don't think so. We've got a few firewalls set up out there for them. But Governor Walker, I just have a quick question for you on how has your faith, we have right now approaching 10,000 people on this call with us.
Wow, that's amazing.
We have been promoting and reaching out to people of faith as a way of being able to show them that they do have a voice in this process. And not only a voice, but we encourage them to do what is their right civically, to be involved and to have their Judeo-Christian views supported, listened to, and promoted. And I know that faith plays a large major part and a major role in your life. You and I have talked about that on various occasions. How has your faith helped you to really get through the vitriol and the constant ongoing hatred that seems to be pointed your direction over the last year?
It is amazing, and the media tends to hone in on it. I mean, I literally got a card tonight. Somebody handed me Romans 16:20 on the way out of an event, and I get that all the time. I remember at the peak of some of the protests last year, someone handed me another card on the way in and out of an event with Isaiah 54:17 on it, which certainly was a great testimony to me. But I got to tell you, for every time I go around the state, it doesn't matter whether I go to a factory or a farm or a small business, I got to tell you how amazing it is to me that particularly the factories. I get folks that come off the assembly line and say, "Hey, Governor, I want to let you know that you and your family are in our prayers. We've been lifting you up." I just got to tell you, that just means the absolute world to us, and we can't thank people enough for that. And so that alone, just the prayers that we offer up as a family, and most importantly, the prayers that others have offered up for us and pass on. But the other part of it is, and for me, this is, people ask all the time, how do you put up with the people who are busted in front of my home, the people that targeted my kids on Facebook, all those things like that. And I said, it's really those prayers, and it's been a great way to witness, not just to others, but even to my own kids, who we've raised in the church and raised in faith, and are so glad both have accepted Christ as their Savior. But it's been a great way to reinforce that to them, because as much as others have attacked us, the reality is that we've resisted that. We've stayed true to our principles, but we understand that doesn't mean that you've got to be disrespectful of others. And I give you one good example of this, Tony, and then take another question here. But
sure.
I had last year, as you know, I don't live in the governor's residence most of the time. I'm usually at my home in Wauwatosa, because that's where both my boys go to